kind of want my kids to know me for who I
Mm.
am really as an artist. I don't need to be the perfect example for them all the time. I just need to
Mm.
be me because most people are in front of their kids, they're a persona, and then when they're outside, there's some total different beast, and that's fine for when your kids are young. They don't notice this shit, but when they're teenagers, that's when they don't trust you. They don't know who you are. They're like I don't know this man. I know nothing about his past or what he likes or whatever. He's just like fucking beige because that's what parents are trying to be in front of their kids, trying to be fucking beige and boring and just like and I was like, I'm not gonna be like that. And it kept popping in my head during the ceremony. So like I kept writing and I kept writing stories. And like the next day we were just sitting by the beach, me and my wife, and I read it back and I was like, this can be something more. I need to write a fucking book.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
This is
Happy to be
literally
here.
just how it starts.
Yeah, perfect. Perfect. I'm done with that. I literally changed setup in the past 3 minutes. I was like in a total different room. And then I opened up Zoom and I was like, this looks like fucking shit. I have to space space. And I just
Yo,
ran here looking at the clock. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna make it.
uh,
Perfect.
all good. But yeah, no, this looks sick. Yeah, good
Perfect.
background. This
Perfect.
took background took me forever. I had like a green screen behind me that just had like what I wanted the background to look like.
Yeah.
But it sucked because every time that you move with the green screen, like my hand would disappear or just it
Yeah.
would like
Yeah.
come out of nowhere. So finally got the
Yeah.
background all settled.
Yeah, at first I was like, I was gonna order some of those, like just like a black paper and just put behind, and maybe I will in the future, but I'm like, how many times do I actually do like Zoom interviews? Like usually
Yeah,
like,
true, right?
I'm always traveling for these kinds of stuff. So I was like, okay, like whatever. For now, just do it for the fucking bedroom.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it works. It works.
Yeah, it works.
This is Oliver Colt, everyone. We met via your agency, put us in touch, and
Yeah.
I'm grateful for that because it
Yeah.
allows me to meet new people. Because a lot of the people that I have on my podcast are comedians that I've done shows with, musicians that I've met, like different artists. So I'm always interested to talk to new people, and it's always interesting that we're recording the first ever conversation that we're having. I find that
Yeah.
to be kind of funny. First question that I got for you after doing some research and looking into you, were you born cool, or what did you become cool with like your first tattoo, or was it like a no? I was like, this guy looks like he's been cool his entire life.
Yeah, no, actually, no. Like, a lot of my exes would say that I was a total loser back in high school, and
So
even a bit after that.
you were
Yeah,
forged by your
yeah.
exes.
Honestly, it's the barbering scene that forged me. Like, I used to be, like as a teenager, more of a nerdy guy. I still
Yeah.
play like every morning now with my kids. We play chess before going to school.
Oh, that's great.
And then my kids are like, "Why are you so good at chess?" I'm like, "Dude, I was a nerd, bro. Like I would play chess and ping pong at school. Like
Yeah,
that's all I
yeah.
would be
They
doing."
find
So
like an old chess club sweater in your
that's
closet or
it.
something.
That's it. So yeah, all my high school years I was pretty much just of a nerd. And then after that, like like music industry, also like I got into like heavy metal. So that's when I got like tatted up and pretty young, I started having like tattoos at like my first one was at 14, and
Wow. I guess
yeah,
Montreal, right?
no, it's still illegal
Wasn't
as
Soren.
fuck. But and my parents didn't know, would have
Uh,
never approved. But like, I got it on my stomach. I was like, I'm just not like I don't live near a beach. Like, no one's gonna fucking know. So
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I started getting tattooed at 14, and by the time I was 16, so like for Canada, end of high school, like the fifth year, which is the last year of high school,
Yeah.
graduates, I had like half a sleeve done.
No
So
shit.
yeah, my
That's
teachers would
wild.
hate it. Teachers would hate it. The whole school would hate it because they just kept saying I was a bad influence. Because other kids were like, "Oh, coming up to me, I do like I want tattoos too. Who did it to you without your parents' permission?" I was like, "Oh, this guy, this guy,
Yeah,
this guy."
yeah,
So
yeah. Did that guy get
yeah.
caught? Like,
No, 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 no. He's still a tattoo artist. He's actually very good now. Back when he did my work, he was kind of shitty, and
uh
he's like for like it was cool for me to have
he was
tattoos.
16, so what do you mean?
No, no, he was, but he was like 20 max,
Oh,
max
damn.
20.
Okay.
So like
Yeah,
still learning, and he was doing tattoos in his parents' basement.
yeah. Yeah.
So like, and he was like living like 3 or 4 streets away from me. So I would just walk there at night when my parents were sleeping, get tattooed, come back. So like my parents would wake
Hilarious.
up in the morning with me tatted up and be like, "What the, you know?"
Where did that,
So
because that just doesn't like my first tattoo, I was literally like it's gonna symbolize me. The tattoo itself is YOLO, but
yeah,
it's it's me literally saying like I don't give a fuck what anyone
yeah,
thinks. I'm gonna tattoo that on my arm to prove as a physical representation of how little I give a fuck what people think.
yeah.
What was your first tattoo at 14? What pushed you to do that, and what was it?
So I wish it was as cool as YOLO. Like I would have loved from
That sentence has
first.
never been said, by the
No,
way.
but like no, for real. Like imagine like a first tattoo at 14 being YOLO. You just like around 18 you start regretting, but then when you get to your 30s, you're like that was sick, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But no, I just got like some lettering, like it said hope on my fucking belly. And it's nicely done though. It's a really that was done in like a
Okay.
really experienced tattoo shop, and the guy just didn't know I was 14, so like
Yeah.
whatever. And that one's fine, but I've never been a so I'm that kind of guy who collects tattoos more just because I think they're fucking cool and they
Hmm.
never have meanings. Like I have nothing other than like my kids' names and whatnot that have meanings.
Yeah, yeah.
I just like to get tatted since forever. I was looking at movies when I was like 10, 11, 12, and I would always side with the bad guys. I'm like, this guy looks badass, you know, like the whole
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
so I don't know. It was just for me part of like a culture I wanted to be a part of. So I was either I get no tattoos or I go balls to the walls and I'm fully tatted. Like
Yeah.
there was no in between for me.
Ah, okay. You're just like, I'm gonna slowly progress. So do you
Not slowly.
still
I
not
never.
slowly? There's a comedian named Dylan Parker in Ottawa, and he has a hilarious joke where because he's tatted too, and he's like, every tattoo I have commemorates a time where because people always ask him like, what's the meaning?
Yeah.
And maybe you can use this too, but he's like, well, every tattoo commemorates a time that I once had $150.
Yeah, that's it. Basically,
And I just
basically.
was like, put something on me.
Yeah, that's basically it. That's so for the guy that was tattooing me back when I was like 16 or whatnot, that was
Yeah.
basically the deal. Every time I would get my paycheck, I would just go to his house and get tattooed. So like that was the thing. And even later on, like when I started making money, like a lot more money working as a barber, I would just get tattooed like on every time I wasn't hangover or some shit that I could
Mm.
actually show up to a tattoo shop, I would just go and get tattooed. And like now it's been probably the longest streak of months without getting tattooed recently. I think it's been about like 8 months. I haven't had anything done, and it feels fucking weird. Like
Yeah, no doubt.
I'm just used to have something new or to be like in the recovery process for like, you
Yeah.
know, of like like scabbing and stuff.
Do you
Nothing
just
done in
like
eight
go
months.
in and do you have an idea sometimes, or sometimes do you just go in and like flip through a book and go, that looks cool, let's get that? Because I've
Uh
always wanted to do that. Just walk into a
yeah,
random tattoo shop, look through their book and go, oh yeah, that's sweet. Let's get that done. Put it here.
pretty much like my whole neck is like I have like skulls and shit on my neck, and I was 19 I think when I got my first piece in my neck done, and I just went there because I like the style of the guy. The guy was super talented and stuff, and I walked in and I was like, I want to get the side of my neck tattooed. He's like, what do you want? I'm like, I don't know. What do you want to do? He's like, let's do a skull. I'm like, yeah, cool. Like so
Nice. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's always been like that, you know. Same for my face. I have like the side of my face and it says king, and I went to the tattoo shop pretty plastered at night, like probably 11, because I knew the guy. He was just chilling there, and
Yeah.
then he's like, "What are we writing?" I'm like, "I don't know. What do you think looks badass?" He was like, "Dude, king on your face would be pretty cool." I'm like, Let's write king, dude. Like that's it, you know."
That's great.
Yeah,
Now to shift gears for a second, you said, okay, so you were in the barbershop world, and then you also had a reality TV show. Was it
yeah,
based around the barbershop?
kinda. So it was based around my family, me and my wife, and when we had our firstborn, so he was like really young. I think
Okay.
when we did that, he was probably like between 6 months or a year. I can't like dates, whatever.
Yeah.
But it all started because of the barber shop. So at first, I had a really good client who worked for a production company, and the production company wanted to ride a wave of those like the barbershop trend and tattoos that were picking up, And I was like kind of one of the leaders in Canada in that section. So they pitched an idea called Alpha, and it would be like me giving interviews to other barbers, tattoo artists,
Mm,
like NASCAR racers, bunch of shit like that,
cool.
across Canada. And they pitched the idea. We did a whole pilot for it, and then they pitched the idea to a couple different TV channels, and one of them replied, I just want to see this guy's live. I don't give a shit about anything else, like who he's interviewing. So like, because like there was a part in this where they were just at home with me, my new baby, my wife,
Ah,
and that was kind of like the intro of the pilot. And so the production crew was like, well, let's just tweak it. So like we filmed more content like that, did a new pilot where it was only family shit. And then we pushed it as like, a reality TV show of a young couple that are outside of the box, not doing like things like what you
yeah.
used to see like in Quebec. And we pitched it. First time we pitched it, sold it right away.
Wow. Did you
Yeah.
see like business pick up after that? Or
Yeah, and
what?
that's
Yeah.
that's what that was weird because like business picked up for the barbershops. Like everything was happening at the same time. The TV show came out, business was already good, but then it became like
Like
super
you're
big.
booked out. Like,
Yeah, but I
yeah,
wasn't cutting anymore at that point. I couldn't cut anymore because I was managing the shop. So I was
yeah.
taking care of management, hiring new employees, opening new shops. Like we opened up 7 barber shops in like 4 years. So we
Wow.
got like super busy. And even though it kept bringing business, like I had 3 partners in that business, and everyone kept being kind of jealous of that. Like everybody was
Mm,
like, now if we Google the name of the barbershops, it's only fucking articles about you, your show, your family,
yeah,
your
yeah.
interviews, your shit. It's never about the other barbers. And I was like, I get it, but it brings in money, so who the fuck cares? You know?
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Like, who
Yeah,
the fuck, you really need to surround yourself with people who are like not, they don't want any of that. Like some of my favorite like friends to hang out with are the people who are, they don't even have social media. Like
that's it.
they don't want to be like any, they have such a private life. And I honestly take their opinion on what I'm doing or their advice like a lot more, it's more valuable to me because like
Mhm.
somebody else who's also vying for that spot, if you will, they might give you some shady advice that like leads you the wrong way, or they might not always have your best interests at heart. But that's unfortunate. So how did you deal with that? Like, did you just have the conversation with them and they kind of just were like, all right, it is what it is, or did they part
No,
ways?
no, I ended up selling all my parts like a few years
Ah,
after. I ended up just selling all my parts and just leaving and doing something else. For me, like it never stopped, like from that point, like I met my wife, we had a baby. Because like I met my wife 4 months later, we're married.
mm-hmm.
2 months after that, she's pregnant. So it's like everything fast forward. And then the TV show, then the major exposure. Then I sold the barbershops, did a bunch of other projects, then moved to Mexico. Like everything has been so
Man.
fast. Yeah, so much movement that like for me, I never like sat back and was like, oh, was that the right decision?
Yeah,
Or like,
yeah.
no, like everything has been going great. So I'm never like putting the brakes. Like it's just fine. So like
Yeah, yeah.
good for them. Like they still have the shops. Like it doesn't. I know they closed down a few barber shops because we opened up so much, but again, like they don't have a face of the company anymore. So it's like
Mm.
they had a lot of employees left when I left. So, but it's still working. Like they're doing their own thing. I'm doing my own thing.
That's cool. So like it served its purpose for you too.
Yeah.
And that must have been so crazy to like meet your wife. You guys are like getting together and then just all of a sudden cameras everywhere, new baby there too, and then just like that must have been like pretty chaotic. Plus managing the business side of itself has got
Yeah.
to be like a lot. Like I understand why you'd want to distance yourself from it for a while.
Yeah, that's also because like when we pitched the concept of the show for the production company really was interested in the fact that my wife was an ex-porn star
That
and
was like the
and
hook for people.
yeah, and that I was this young tatted guy who used to do a bunch of drugs, who just opened up barbershops like while like fucking working all night long on
Yeah,
cocaine.
yeah.
and made a bunch of money, blah blah. And then we have a young kid. So like it seemed like, oh my God, like these guys are gonna be a
Yeah.
train wreck to follow, you know? Because like
Yeah, yeah.
reality, like if you watch TLC, you're watching it for the train wreck. Like whenever you watch a show like I don't know, like
You
90 Day
want the
Fiance,
meltdowns. Like,
yeah,
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
every time there's a couple that's like they're doing well, they don't fight, everything's fine. You're like, fuck this shit. I don't need to watch this. Like I
There's no
want to watch,
conflict.
yeah, I want to watch shit happening. And nothing was happening on our show at first when we started filming because dude, I love my wife, everything's fine. Like we're not fighting, I'm not doing drugs anymore, everything's fine.
Yeah.
So it started getting weird when filming when the production was like, we need to crank this shit up. So like they would put me apart from her a lot of times and then talk trash. And
No
like, oh
way.
yeah, yeah, yeah. They would say like, oh, she said that and he said that and like this
Wow.
happened, but like bunch of shit that wasn't true. Just so when we were together and then they would film us and then they would give us so much booze. Cause like it's illegal, but they still fucking do it. Like they're not allowed to have us really drink on set in front of the
Mm-hmm.
cameras, but
Mm-hmm.
like offset every time in the breaks, they would just like, like boom, what do you want? And then drinks, 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 drinks
Wow.
all the time. Yeah. So then you get to like filming and then you've been told for the last 4 hours some bullshit. Wife's the same thing. And then they put us in the same room and then they put us in a situation where they know we're gonna fight. And then boom, it explodes. And then you have TV. So it
Wow.
was hard. So it
Yeah,
was
because then
definitely
the
hard.
editing too, like
Oh
was
yeah.
it did you ever watch the show? I should ask you that.
Yeah. Yes and no. So
Because
at
some people
first
don't like watching themselves.
I hate it. I used to hate
Yeah.
it. I used to hate it because I used to be so in that moment in that show like always either drunk or like
Mm.
angry because of whatever happened like behind camera. But
Yeah.
we watched the first ones because we were like there was a hype going on online, so like we would like would like be on live on Instagram, be like, okay, we're watching the show right now, who's watching with us? So like big hype was going on,
Uh-huh.
but not really like take the time to analyze like what I'm saying and whatnot. And
Yeah.
then this one night I rewatched one while my kid wasn't sleeping, so like I was like, okay, whatever, I'm gonna like give him a bottle and just watch the show. And I was like, dude, this is bad. I was like, I can't watch myself like this anymore. So I haven't watched all of them. And even if someone would bring me like a fucking DVD with all of them being on it, I'm not watching this shit.
You're like,
No
no,
way.
I'm good. I'm good,
No way.
man.
I'm
Thanks for
good. I'm good. I
that.
grew I grew from this. I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because I was like the only real reason you would want to watch something like that is like, oh, how can I improve the next? I'm thinking of like me as a comedian, I rewatch my sets and it's
Yeah.
hard for me to watch myself on stage because I have to separate myself from myself as a performer and be like objective. Like, is
Yeah.
that joke funny? Um,
Yeah,
but I'm
especially if you
like,
love the joke. If it's a joke that you
oh my
love and then
God, it's the
there's no
worst.
reaction in the crowd whatsoever,
Oh,
and you're
bro,
like,
it's the
but dude, that
worst.
was killer. What the fuck happened, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I just got told by a club manager that he's like, I really love that joke, but like you can't do it here. Like he's like, I can't sell that to an audience. I like
Why?
it, he goes, but I can't.
Too
I'm like,
rough?
man, it was like an abortion joke. So it
Oh
was
yeah, but
like, yeah,
okay, but
he's like, I can't sell that to a general audience. And I'm like, all right, I hear where you're coming from. But as a comedian, he was like, it is good. Like it's a good joke, but he's like, people are gonna complain. I was like,
yeah,
all right,
but
fine.
yeah, but that's I don't even know how you deal with that to be honest, because
It's hard, man.
I've never been someone who watches my words, and that's what the whole book's all about.
Yeah,
I think any parent who picks up my book and thinking they're reading like a parenting book, like a regular parenting book, will just fucking
yeah,
freak out because like it's unfiltered, it's fucking raw, it's
yeah,
insane. But like I don't even know how in comedy when you go and like you study in comedy and humor and like you've practiced all your life and then you have like insane jokes because the best jokes are brutal. Like it
yeah,
is
yeah.
brutal. Like it
You just
needs
do it somewhere else. That's all.
yeah,
There's just
that
like I've learned that there's just like a time and a place, and it's also motivation for me to just write more jokes
yeah.
because I'm like, okay, that joke is good. I can sort of shelf it and do it where it's acceptable. Like I
You go to
can do it
Florida.
in yeah, yeah, yeah,
You just go to
exactly.
another state and you're like,
Just
okay,
go to Texas
this
and do it
yeah,
there.
Texas, I can say whatever I want. It's funny.
People are like, "Whoa, God."
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
That's the funny thing about jokes too, is they hit different in different places. Even in
Yeah.
Ottawa, it's like different parts of town, the joke will hit differently.
Oh yeah, you're
But
in Ottawa?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, so I like in Canada, I feel especially now with like censorship and shit, it must be even harder for you as a comedian to even take snippets of your work and post it online
I
of
haven't
a
felt
joke.
anything, but
No,
no,
because
yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it's so much censorship that it's like there's things I feel like there's so many things you can't say in Canada anymore that you're not allowed to say. Like you have like because my wife's a naturopath, so
Mm.
she's gonna post online about like like fucking the sunlight and sunscreen and shit like that, like to not put sunscreen necessarily, like it's not good for you, and
Yeah,
like
yeah. It's
canola
just
oil and shit like that.
chemicals.
Yeah,
Yeah.
chemicals, like so basic shit that all over the states, bunch of doctors even are saying
Yeah.
are
Or
spreading the
go to
same message.
China. Like,
That's it,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Chinese medicine is just like, they're like, no, 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 no. Just use
herbs.
these herbs.
Herbs,
Like,
that's it. That's it. So my
yeah,
wife's all about that. And then
yeah.
there's like big guys like Uberman and whatever who have huge podcasts who share the same opinion. No problem. My wife says something like that, and then Quebec Canada media is like putting her as like a demon, bans her, blocks her
Wow.
account, and you're like, what the fuck, dude? You know?
Wow. I had my buddy who's a comedian, Robbie Hollywood. He came on my podcast and he had this is like in the middle of the pandemic. He had a shirt on that said vaccinated. And just because it was like somewhat like, I don't know why, but like they must have just picked up on the words on the shirt. And there was like a COVID-19 like misinformation warning label placed over the episode everywhere I posted it. I
Yeah,
was like,
that's
what?
insane. But you know how crazy it's like those recognition AI systems,
Yeah,
what like
it's intense,
it's,
man.
it's intense. It's really intense. So
Yeah.
that's why I don't even know how you cope with that as a
But it's not
comedian.
as bad as other, like I just saw the craziest thing in China. Apparently they have mass surveillance everywhere, like
Yeah, yeah,
cameras on every corner. If you jaywalk, they literally will have your face and they'll bill your account, like money, like a fine will just come out of your bank account and your
yeah,
social credit score will just go down
yeah,
to like
yeah,
keep people in line. I'm like, I guess that's how you keep a billion people in line, but like, fuck, that's scary. That's such a
yeah.
Black Mirror thing. Like,
It's insane because like a lot of people don't seem to understand that sometimes in Canada, like they've been trying to do shit like that. Like
it's like
even
they're testing stuff.
they're testing it, like
Yeah,
even
yeah,
happened
yeah.
with the truckers in Ottawa,
Yeah,
like when
yeah.
this one girl like posted that she was there and then they blocked their fucking account.
Bro.
So it's like you see her on a camera, boom, link her to her account, block her bank account. Like if you can do that,
Yeah,
imagine
yeah,
when
yeah.
shit next time when shit hits the fan.
That was the first time where I was like, oh, they're just lying.
Yeah.
Because I had people like friends that were I had lived in Toronto for like 8 9 years and then I moved to Ottawa with my girlfriend like 2021. And so I had friends in Toronto that were watching the news and they're like, "Oh wow, you better be careful. You better be careful out there. I heard that trucker protest is getting really out of hand, like it's getting violent and dangerous and there's Nazis there." And my girlfriend and I we went downtown. It was like her birthday. So we went downtown while the protest is going on, like at the height of all the fear mongering. We walked right through it into like whatever that fancy restaurant is down by like Parliament Hill. It's like a
Yeah, yeah.
nice restaurant there. Just everybody's like so nice, like, hey, how's it going? Waving, like,
Yeah, the
yeah,
people
how are
were
you?
barbecuing outside.
Yeah, yeah,
Like there was like
yeah.
nothing going
I
on that
was
was
like,
bad.
not this is okay, this is where I'm leading to. Not a Nazi flag in sight, right? Like the news was like, oh my God, there's Nazis there. This is all they like care about. And they're trying to make you hate these people indirectly for some other reason, some reason
Mhm.
that they're just lying, right? About these people and why they're there. And then fast forward to like, I think it's still going on. You have like Israel, Palestine, like people protesting
Yeah.
Israel. And then like these people are literally saying, kill the Jews.
Yeah.
They're not like
Not
waving
hiding it.
flag. They're not hiding it. Like
No.
the news was like, these people are secret Nazis. They're embedded in this like trucker protest. And like, no, they just don't want to be told what to do.
That's it.
And that's it. That's bottom line. That was finished. That was their gripe, right? These people's gripe is we don't like Jewish people.
Yeah,
That it's like, what the fuck is happening? And
and
then you
there's
had
nothing
Trudeau.
happening.
And then you had Trudeau bringing that literal Nazi into the Parliament building, and everyone's like
Yeah,
saluting this guy. I'm like,
yeah, yeah.
it feels like you're in Bizarro world. You're just like, I don't understand like how everyone thinks that's normal, and then this is not okay.
Yeah, but there was a shift, bro, in the whole like COVID thing. Like, I think there was so much information about so many things getting spread on so different many platforms, and all of it was different
Mm,
that people lost their so much trust that that right now the people who are a little bit more weak, who don't like look for anything more than what they see, will
hmm
just be like, you know what? I voted Trudeau. I will trust 100% what he says, and
uh-huh.
that's it. I
Yeah,
don't have
yeah,
time with like they just believe that everything else is lies
yeah,
from
yeah,
and that happened a little bit even before COVID with Donald Trump. It started worldwide because of that fake news, Donald Trump fake news constantly. So now people believe that everything is fake news,
yeah.
and they can't conceive that maybe your government is saying fake news, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But they're
Maybe your
like, no, no, no,
government isn't actually
no,
a syndicate crime family.
that's it, you
They're
know?
like the best mafia ever. They have complete territorial control, and if you don't pay your taxes, they come and arrest you.
Bro, not just that, like
Like,
it's gonna be with everything. But again, like I'm in Mexico now for
yeah,
a lot of these reasons that I was just like, there's no point for me to be in Canada anymore. Like
yeah.
I can get arrested for fucking homeschooling my kids. Like it's nuts, you know?
That's the craziest thing to me that people don't realize about Canada is like you can't actually raise your kid the way that you want to raise your kid. If the government doesn't think that you're doing a good job, they can just intervene at any point in time, which
Yep.
is
And
absolutely insane to me.
it's not even the government at that point. It's your neighbor. Like
Yeah, oh yeah, 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 for sure, for sure.
anybody who's like
Yeah.
calling up and be
It's
like, hey,
1984. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, is it fishy? Like this guy, like I don't know, like his kid said something to my kid and it's off and it doesn't go along with what the government's saying. Then
Yeah.
they send this fucking agent to your house, and then
Yeah.
from that point you have reports to do, and then I don't know, dude. I have
Yeah.
a friend who came to visit me in Mexico with her daughter, and she came and it was about like in October, so there's school, but like she's
Yeah.
four. She's four. She's like in like pre-kindergarten, whatever thing, but like it's
Yeah.
in the school system. And then she came for 2.5 weeks. After a week and a half, she gets a call on her phone. So she picks up. I'm right with her at the fucking beach. And it's the social services for kids who are like, where are you? And then she's like, I'm on vacation. Like, well, you pulled your daughter out of school for more than a week without warning the school. That's illegal. She's like, she's four, and I'm on vacation
Yeah,
with
yeah.
me. I'm coming. Like,
With
what is
her
she
mother.
missing?
Yeah,
What is she
yeah.
missing? Story time? Like, what the
Yeah,
fuck, you
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah.
It's
Her
like,
ABCs.
yeah, that's it. And then when she got back, she had for 6 months, she had follow-ups. Like, there would be someone showing up to her
Wow.
door and being like, making sure that like, everything's fine in the house, like walking in every single room.
Yeah,
Dude,
yeah.
because she went on vacation during school time.
That's crazy.
Crazy.
You want to really get into it too. Like the whole reason why we have like a school system in North America is because back in the day, Prussia, when that country was around, they had a hard time going to war. They were sending people to war and they were like pissing themselves and crying because they didn't want to kill other people. They didn't want to fight for their country. So the government was like, well, we need to come up with a system where we can like basically program like people from a very young age, our citizens, to do whatever we ask of them.
Mhm.
Have them come here at a specific time and learn specific things from this place, from this time to this time. And if they deviate, they get punished.
Yep.
And you have to sing the national anthem every single morning and pledge your allegiance to the flag. That's what America does. Like it's like this system just kind of everybody else was like, that's a good system to create like good working. And even if you weren't using these citizens for the war, you could use them then in the workspace to get taxes from them, which
Yeah.
it's just it's insane
Well,
when you go back to the start of it of
yeah.
why it happened in the first place. And you're like, oh, that's why they're so strict about, hey, you can't, your 4-year-old can't miss a week of school. We need
Yeah.
her
And
maximized programming. Yeah.
homeworks and all that shit. Like, like more and more now, they've started. I've seen a bunch of schools across Canada that like the school hours a little bit less, so they finish earlier, but there's
Mm.
more homeworks at home. So then parents are like, oh, we spend more time with our kids. Dude, they're doing this because nowadays, for almost every fucking job that is now almost half remote, they don't want you to be on a timeline. They want you to be reachable at 7 p.m. if you need to.
I hate
Like
that.
you don't clock out at 5 anymore, dude. You
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
clock
yeah,
out at
dude.
5. Like if I need
I've
you, I can reach you.
I've quit so many. Well, not so many. I've quit two work from home jobs because they tried to reach out to me at like a Saturday at 10 o'clock. Like, hey, we need you to do this. And I was like, no.
No, that's it.
I know I work from home, but no.
No,
I'll do it tomorrow, a Monday at 9. That's when it'll get done.
but that's not what the school system
Yeah, yeah,
teaches
yeah.
you, because school system is like, oh, you just been in school working from 7 to like 4 something,
Yeah.
but then after dinner, you still have some shit to do.
Oh,
And it's like, what the fuck? Like, especially for a kid, like,
yeah.
when does a kid have a time to be a kid on weekend? And then on weekends, parents are working their fucking
Yeah.
life out all week, and then on weekends they go grocery shopping, cleaning the house. It's like, when do you have time to be a family? Never.
Yeah, never. And
Breaking
I
that
saw
down.
someone say this, and it made me laugh so hard because I'm like, this is very true. They're like, the only reason why we love summer as adults is because it reminds us of a time that we had like 2 months off, like when we were kids. It was like the
Yep.
only break that you got. So even as an adult, you're like, ah, summer's here, but
Yeah.
there's still no break. Like it's actually
No.
a horrible season. It's like
Horrible season.
forest fires and fucking
Yeah. Yeah. No,
like
that's it. You're
humid
just
as
like,
fuck.
you're like, oh, now I can get drunk on a fucking Tuesday at a
Yeah, yeah,
terrace
yeah.
because it's pretty outside, but then you know there's gonna be consequences. But
Yeah,
back in
yeah.
when you were a teenager, there wasn't any consequences
Yeah.
whatsoever. Summer was free for all.
How long you been in Mexico for?
We moved here in like part-time at first in 2020.
Okay.
Yeah, like really beginning of pandemic. So we were in Mexico in like March 2020 when like
Oh
everything started shutting
wow.
down, and we were in a resort, and we had booked a full month vacation in a resort, and everything started shutting down in the resort. Like I don't watch
Oh.
news. My wife
Yeah.
doesn't watch news. I'm on fucking vacation. I'm not on Facebook. I'm not nothing. I'm just
Yeah,
drinking
yeah.
in the pool and beach and whatever. And then I see like it's starting to get really empty, like real fast. I'm saying like 48 hours, almost like we're almost the only people there. And then
Wow.
someone knocks on our door and he's like, dude, we're closing down the resort. I'm like, why the fuck are you closing down the resort?
Yeah.
He's like, there's a pandemic. We have to shut down the resort. I'm like, what? So like we ended up like coming back to Canada, seeing all this shit. And then the second we were like legit allowed to leave, we left to Mexico and never really came back. We came back like maybe like a month here and there until we sold our house. And then we
Mm.
sold our house last year and bought here. We've been living here full time. My kids go to school in the jungle, and it's not really like a school. It's more of like a different program. It's like a Montessori
Okay. Yeah,
slash
yeah.
homeschooling program. So they're there from like 9 a.m. to
Yeah.
1 p.m. Like 9 to 1. The rest of the time I'm with them. We homeschool them at home. We do activities, whatever.
Wow.
They do their own shit.
That's great, man.
Yeah, it's different. And they're outside over there. It's like they have a building inside, but most of the time outside. They do math like in the cenote. They do science class with the trees, and it's like totally different.
Wow. Is there a
Totally
lot of
different.
like expats there, like people from other like
Almost
English
all
speaking
expats.
countries? Ah, okay.
Almost all expats. But it's not, surprisingly, it's not very Canadian or American.
Hmm.
Lots of Russians, lots of Russians. And I'm like, I get why Russians would want to leave Russia. I get it. But it's
Yeah, yeah.
like, it's,
You
it's,
got
there's,
Putin in charge. It's like
yeah, it's like
Jesus.
the third most spoken language in the whole school. But like in the whole
Wow.
school, there's about like 40 kids in the school,
Yeah.
but like a good quarter of them are Russian.
Wow.
So yeah, and there's a few Canadians, few Americans, and then it's people from a little bit everywhere and a couple locals, but it's really more of an expat community thing.
Oh, that's really cool. Now,
Yeah,
your book, Dadass, which is also the word for the episode,
yeah.
how did that start? And like, did it come to you like as you were raising your child? Like, I should really like write a book about this, or was it something that you did to prepare yourself for it?
So it came out of a mushroom ceremony that I was
I
having with my
like
wife.
it.
Yeah, like
I feel like we
I
could hang out outside
yeah,
of this for
like
sure.
I've been an artist all my life, like
Yeah.
music before, and then after that barbering and music again. Like I've done it was always with art. My whole life has
Hmm.
been around art. I do graphic design, I do all this stuff, and writing has always been something that was inside me because every band I ever had, I wrote the lyrics all the
Mm.
time. Uh, every brand, like I've owned a bunch of businesses, I always do the branding because I do the copywriting, everything. So it's always been like telling a story has always been part of something that I like to do artistically. And we did this mushroom ceremony in Mexico on the Pacific side. Just me and my wife, we went for like a getaway for like 10 days. And we did the ceremony. And when I was integrating after, like in the few hours after, I just started journaling. And what I was writing didn't feel like I was talking to myself. It felt like I was like telling someone a story. And the whole time in that mushroom ceremony, my kids kept coming up. And my role as a father kept coming up because I was like, I kind of want my kids to know me for who I
Mm.
am really as an artist. I don't need to be the perfect example for them all the time. I just need to
Mm.
be me because most people are in front of their kids, they're a persona. And then when they're outside, there's some total different beast. And that's fine for when your kids are young, they don't notice this shit. But when they're teenagers, that's when they don't trust you. They don't know who you are. They're like, I don't know this man. I know nothing about his past or what he likes or whatever. He's just like fucking beige. Because that's what parents are trying to be in front of their kids, trying to be fucking beige and boring and just like and I was like, I'm not gonna be like that. And it kept popping in my head during the ceremony. So like I kept writing and I kept writing stories. And like like the next day we were just sitting by the beach, me and my wife, and I read it back and I was like, this can be something more. I need to write a fucking book. So I that was in August of 2023.
Wow.
And from August to all the way to December, I was probably writing 2 hours a day and book was done like beginning of January of this year.
Wow. Congrats, man. It's a big
Thank you.
feat to write a book like that. It's not an easy thing to do for sure.
Yeah, especially at first book because you don't know. I had no
Yeah.
idea. Like, I don't read.
You
That's
just
the
figure it
thing.
out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
fucking
yeah.
read that much.
Yeah.
I probably read like 5 books in the
Yeah.
past 10 years. So so I was like, how much words do I need to write? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
how
yeah.
much words are in a
There's
chapter?
after I read the creative, I think it's the Creative Act by Rick Rubin, I was like, man, you can just write a book any way you want to write a book.
Yeah.
Like you read
Yeah.
that and you're like, oh, he's just doing whatever comes to his mind. That's what
Yeah,
he's
there's no
putting
rules.
into it.
That's what
There
I
is
figured
no
after. At
rules.
some point, I
Yeah.
was like, okay, there's no rules, and but I wanted it to be there. There's a good. I've been like surrounded by so many people who actually know what they're talking about. So I kept
Hmm.
messaging people that have wrote books before, or I've done PR for authors, and I've been like,
Yeah.
is this okay? Like, is this fine? Like, does this make
Yeah,
sense? And then they
yeah.
were like, a lot of people told me just do a focus group. Like,
Yeah.
do a focus group, post whatever you're writing in order on that group, get friends to read it and give feedback and non-friends, like people you don't know. So
Your
I started a
acquaintances
focus
or
group.
maybe yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I got like about like 30, 40 people on that focus group that I closed after that. I was like 40 is enough. And I would just post chapter after chapter. And sometimes I would modify it and people would just read and give feedback, be like, yo, this resonates with me. Or like this whole part, I don't fucking understand nothing you're saying.
Mm.
And then I would take some shit into consideration, change it, and that's it.
Yeah, because there's a fine line, right, between like you just expressing yourself, but then you also want it to be readable. Like you want
Yeah.
people to be able to understand what it is that you're trying to get across without sacrificing too much of your vision. What was your relationship like with your own father? And like, do you have when you're writing this, because it is about like parenting. So are you pulling from things that of how you were raised, or was it more like how you wanted to raise a child, or is it more of like an environmental, maybe somebody else that influenced how you do things?
Dude, so that's interesting because it's a little bit of everything, and I touch on my relationship with my father a lot more than I thought touch about the relationship with my mother because this book's for dads. Like I'm not expecting a woman to pick up
Mm-hmm.
that book really and vibe it. It's a good book, but I talk a lot about me fucking my wife and like it's vulgar as
It's for
shit,
a
you know?
dad.
Like it's
Yeah,
for a dad. Like there's a
yeah.
bunch of sex jokes in there. It's like it doesn't
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a lot of girls would be just offended and be like, "What
sure.
our guys are pigs," you know? Um, but I speak a lot in that book about me and my father and the things that he has done as a dad that I'm like I would never do or not
Mm.
want to do. And it's not even it's never in a bad place, in a bad way. I don't want to insult him or I don't want to be like, you know, like you caused this trauma, this and that. But it's like I think you're supposed to always be better than your parents. You know,
I think
like
that's
you're
their goal. I
supposed
think that's their goal too, right? Is
that's
to,
the goal all the
yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah.
And but it's also I think I'm a generation and I cannot blame my parents for this because it's their whole fucking generation. I believe that whole generation born between like the 50s and the fucking 70s haven't really learned to work on themselves afterwards, you know, like to do like let's say like a mushroom ceremony, like and do like and do work and breath work and everything and regulate themselves and realize what they've done wrong and analyze their days and like my parents didn't do that. They work 9 to 5. They do their own shit. Like it's they're part of the matrix. They're part of their own
Yeah.
thing, you know. So it's like they've never done that. But I do it, and I'm a young dad. So I'm like I'm 31 now, and my kids are 7 and 4. So I'm like I'm still at the stage with them where I need to work more than ever on myself because I'm at the trauma causing age. You know, like everything I say every day is going to have an impact on how they are later. Oh, nice cat.
Yeah, my cat just decided to jump on the desk.
But yeah, no, that's it. So I really wrote it in by talking relationship. Like I talk, and it's not even a chapter. I don't even have a
Yeah.
full chapter on my relationship with my dad. It's bits here and there,
Sprinkled throughout. Yeah.
sprinkled throughout. Sometimes I talk about, yeah, I talk a lot in the book about my how I think it's important to share and talk with our kids and to be like super frank with them,
Yeah.
like say everything and I talk a lot about also the fact that I think we were a better species when we used to not go to school and be taught by our parents and our grandparents and our grandparents. You know, like
Hmm.
you when you're the generations, a lot of generations before, kids used to be babysitted all the time by their grandparents and grandparents who would just sit them down and tell them stories,
Yeah.
you know? And I'm like, if my grandfather would have told me a bunch of stories all the time, every day, instead of going to kindergarten, I'd probably be a way smarter kid. I would have probably learned about so many things that now I have no idea about. I have no idea
Hmm.
what happened. Like grandfather, my grandfather did war, but I'm like, what happened? No idea.
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
don't have that
wasn't
knowledge.
until I wasn't asking those types of questions of my grandparents until I was like older, and it was a point where they either didn't remember it anymore or like they just didn't want to talk about it. Like it was
That's
like
it.
it's sad because
It's
you
sad.
kind of wish that you had those moments. I also think too, like, you know, you're talking about how you have to be the best version of yourself because your kids are reaching these sort of pivotal ages. I think in like the next decade, you know, the maybe the 2030s, we're gonna realize that we've almost over like overdone it with the therapy and the trauma. Like I don't think that like every little thing is uh filled with trauma for a child, you know,
100%. 100%.
like people are almost scared to tell their kids no because they think that it's going to traumatize them,
Yeah.
and that's a problem. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
and the more that you tell them like, oh, you have this problem, or I'm noticing that I've traumatized you in this way, your brain is just so good at finding evidence to support whatever it is you're thinking about, right? So if you're
Yeah.
thinking like, oh, I was so traumatized by that thing that happened, instead of just thinking about like what you need to do right now to function, to do things, instead of always thinking, if you're always thinking about your trauma, it's only going to make it worse. Like it doesn't
100%.
always make it better
It's a
by
victim
thinking about it.
mentality. It's a
Yeah.
victim mentality, and that's also something. It's a hard. It's a very thin line that you have to walk as a parent to
Hmm.
be conscious of what you're saying and how you're dealing with certain situations, not to cause traumas that are going to be hard to go over. but also there's a line that you can't cross where you're like you have to have discipline and you need to be a 90s parent in a sense
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
sometimes,
yeah.
like, and more of an 80s
Yeah.
parents, like
Yeah.
I'm 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 a good mix of both this, like, like I'll drive my car with no seatbelt, my kids no seatbelt in the back. I'm like, I don't give a shit, like 80s style,
Yeah,
like, or
yeah.
and like if they want to jump around on in the car while I'm driving, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
If I'm feeling safe, everything's good. Everything's good,
Yeah.
So I have and then I have these moments where I'm like super strict and I'm like, this is how it is, like
Yeah.
like I don't care if it affects your feelings. We can talk about your feelings for
Yeah.
fucking 5 hours if you want, but
I
it's still gonna be the same answer.
I'll never forget my parents being like, I must have been like 13, 14 or something. And they were like, if you want to try beer, if you want to smoke a cigarette, you can do that for sure, 100%, but you have to do it in front of us.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, that makes me not want to do it at all.
No. No.
Like at
Yeah.
all. It just takes all the cool out of it. You're like, I have
Yeah.
to do it in front of you. Like that's so no, I don't want to do it at all anymore. And I
But
always
it's
think about
also
that. It's like a good sort of like technique to be like, yeah, you're a human. You're gonna make your own mistakes, like make your own decisions. But like we just want to supervise you to make sure that you're at least doing it safely.
but the thing is, you would maybe feel comfortable to do it if your parents would have told you about their stories and
Yeah, of
admit
course.
like, yeah, I used to smoke and blah blah,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
but so it's the same thing when my dad first found. I still remember like every second of that interaction when he found my fucking weed pipe inside my school bag, and he was like, "What is this?" And he thought it was for meth, and
Oh my God.
I
Yeah,
was like,
right.
have you ever watched a movie, dude? Like, I'm fucking, like, I'm 13 smoking weed and I know
Yeah.
more about drugs than you. That's not normal.
No, no,
And
yeah,
and then that's when I realized like my dad knows nothing. And that was a trigger that I was like, this is gonna go bad. Because like now I know I can say whatever I want. I can do it. He's never gonna find out. He
yeah.
knows nothing about it. But if he would have been honest with me and be like, yo, listen, I've never touched any of this shit. I don't know nothing, but I need you to be
Yeah.
honest with me. And like, let's talk about it. Tell me, like, because I've
Oh
never smoked
yeah.
weed. And worst case, I would have been even more stoked if my dad at that time was probably what, like 40 something, would have been like, perfect. Let's smoke together then.
Yeah. I
Let's
remember
smoke one
having
time
to
together.
deprogram my parents about weed before,
Yeah.
like right on the cusp of weed like becoming legalized. I was seeing like more of the research and stuff being done of it. And I remember I printed out like a stack of just like research about the benefits of marijuana, just stuff that I had
Yeah.
found online. They're not like online people. They watch the news their whole life. They remember those DARE programs throughout school that told them like drugs are bad, weed is a drug, whatever. And so
Yeah.
that was just stuck in their head. They thought that if they hit like a joint, they'd get schizophrenia like immediately.
Yeah.
They would go insane.
Yeah.
Like that's how programmed they were to think
Yeah.
that. And I was just like, I remember just sitting back and being like, oh wow, like my parents are just humans. Like they're just adults that just that's just what they were told. That's all they knew. They didn't ask any questions. That's just it. So if I just show them the facts and then they maybe experience it, like my mom has some knee pain or whatever, I'm like, instead of taking that medicine, just take these like CBD pills or this
Yeah.
spray or whatever. And I remember, I'll never forget, she was like, I hate to admit that you're right, but like my knee does feel better.
Yeah, oh, for
Like
sure. For sure.
she had to like and I was like, that's a very big thing to do. Admit that
Yeah.
you were wrong. For a parent
Yeah.
to admit to their child that they were wrong about something, you're
Yeah.
like, this is the biggest win I could have ever asked for.
Yeah, my mom went through the same process in December this year where um I had been talking to her about like mushrooms and stuff because my mom has been like, like a bit more sometimes on the depressed side.
Mm-hmm.
And it was hard for me as a kid growing up with someone who's like in and out of depression constantly. That was kind of like my mom. And recently she's been in like another phase of like depression, and I don't live with her anymore. She lives in Canada, I'm here, so she came to visit, and I could see right away, I'm like, something's up, and you're not doing fine. And I was like, you should microdose. You should just start by microdosing mushrooms. You're not even gonna feel nothing, and
Mm-hmm.
like, but it's gonna activate something in your brain. Like, things are gonna happen. Psilocybin does that to your brain, like it's gonna open up some different pathways. You're gonna start thinking differently. You might be happier. Might not change a shit, nothing, but like it might do something. And she started getting open to it. And I was about to convince her to just buy microdoses when she gets back to Canada and start taking it. And then I went out with my wife to have dinner. She watched The Boys. And I come back like 2 hours later, and I opened the fridge, and there was a bar of chocolate in the fridge. I'm like, did you eat this? She's like, yeah, I'm not feeling too good. I'm like, dude, there's like fucking 5 grams of
She
mushroom in
mush-
that bar. It's a
she
mushroom
dosed
chocolate
herself.
bar. Yeah. And she ate like half of it. So I'm like, okay,
Oh
it's not too
God.
bad. I'm like, you're at
You're like,
2.5.
you're gonna
I'm
meet
like,
God. It's gonna be
I'm
okay.
I'm like, first time 2.5, not expecting it, might
Yeah.
hit, but you'll be fine. So like we just took her in her room in the house, played some music, and
Hilarious.
then my wife who does like retreats and stuff. So like she's like used to guiding people through
Hmm.
mushroom ceremonies. She just sat down beside her and they talked for fucking hours, dude,
Wow.
hours.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then after that, now she takes microdoses.
She
We were
almost had
about
to
to convince
jump
her.
in head first
Yeah.
in order to
Yeah.
make
She
her do
bungee
it.
jumped
Yeah,
first,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
after that she was like, okay, so I guess the microdose is gonna be fine.
yeah,
I
yeah.
survived.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. Now, Oliver, there's a question that I always ask my guests, and I want you to think of yourself at 15 years old, where you were at that time, what you were doing, who you were. And the phone rings, and it's you now on the other end. You can give yourself a piece of advice based on what you know now. What do you tell your younger self?
I guess it would be something in the lines of to live every second, uh, and actually appreciate it. There's this thing when you're a teenager, like I don't know for you, but for a lot of guys I speak to, especially dads, because we live in such a fast pace, always trying to like provide for the family and we never want to fail, that we don't appreciate what we have ever. That I don't remember a lot of things from a younger teenager me. So like you're saying 15, like so yeah, 15 I was smoking a lot of weed too. So like my brain probably got fucked up, but still like there's a lot of core memories that I feel like I'm missing,
Mm,
because I wasn't in the present moment. Like I was 15 and I wanted to be 16. I was 16, I
yeah.
wanted to be 18. Like you always want what's coming next, that I feel like if you're not living that moment and you're not being like there, it's never gonna come back.
Yeah.
And I feel that's what, as a parent, when you realize that you have to live in the present moment, you kind of get to relive that with your kids. Because I don't remember necessarily how I was feeling and what I was doing at 4 years old, how everything was probably fucking amazing at 4 years old. Like I've never seen a fucking Corvette that's fucking sick,
Yeah,
sick ass
yeah,
car,
yeah,
Because
yeah,
like my kid's like that right now. Like he's 4, we're driving, and there's like a
yeah.
yellow Corvette. I'm like, what the fuck, like baby
Yeah,
boomer shit car, fuck, like
yeah,
And
yeah.
then he looks at it, he's like,
Whoa.
that's a fucking like racing, not fucking, but he's like, that's a racing car, and I'm like, it's not a race. I can go as fast as this guy with my
You're checking
fucking
them.
like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. But I'm like, yeah, dude, it's a sick car. And then I try in that moment to be like, let's put myself back in the 4-year-old state, because I brought like you lose that.
Yeah, you
And so
forget
I
that like a 4-year-old, he's only been on the planet for 4 years. Like
doesn't
they
know nothing.
know nothing,
Nothing.
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 A friend of mine, her son, they went to Tim Hortons because Tim Hortons now has like pizza, I guess.
What?
So yeah, I don't know.
No, I've been out
I
of
don't,
Canada for so
bro.
long.
I
What the
don't know what's
fuck
happening
happened?
here. Tim Hortons became pizza. It's a whole mess.
Oh,
Uh,
it got bought by Burger King too.
yeah,
For
yeah, yeah.
real.
You know what's the most gangster thing ever is this is like a sidetrack, but McDonald's. So Tim Hortons used to have great coffee, and McDonald's wanted to up their coffee game. So they found out where Tim Hortons was sourcing their coffee beans from, and they bought all the farms. So then Tim Hortons had to find a new supplier for their coffee because
Wow.
McDonald's just came in, and then McDonald's was like free coffee.
Wow.
Free coffee till 10 o'clock.
I love it.
They just started
I
giving it away. That
love it.
aside, they go into Tim Hortons and he's like, wow, mommy, they have pizza. Can I have pizza? And she's like, sure, yeah, whatever. Like, I guess we can get pizza here. And he's eating it and he's like, this is the best day ever. I
Yeah.
was like,
Like
what? It's Tim Hortons pizza.
it sounds like the saddest day of a fucking,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a
But I'm like,
30-year-old eating pizza at Tim Hortons.
yeah,
You're like, this
yeah,
is my
yeah.
life. Well, I
Yeah.
gotta fucking get my shit
I
together.
gotta
This
get my
doesn't
shit
work.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I just thought that
No,
was hilarious. We're like, yeah, I guess like every experience is new. Like my
yeah,
niece, I
but
can't wait till she gets to the point where I can do like low level magic tricks that just blow her mind. Like,
oh, dude, I do that all the time. So I had one of my barbers that used to work when I had the barber shops. He prior to being a barber, he was a magician, like a professional magician.
oh, no way.
So
Cool.
he would do sick shit like to his clients. I would tell him like, dude, just do magic tricks when you cut hair, dude. You're gonna get so much tips. And he would. Like he would fucking like make his clipper disappear and then burn some shit, like insane. And then he taught me a couple card tricks with like I would like shuffle cards and then like I would like guess the card, but like it would be written like somewhere in the house or like whatever, like a
Yeah.
simple trick for a beginner magician. Took me a long time, but like learned it. And then I remember doing them to my oldest one when he was like 3. He would flip, flip. He would love it so much. And then I
Yeah.
stopped kind of doing them because I was like, I didn't learn anymore. And then I didn't have the barbershop plug. So I was like, okay,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah.
Fast forward to like last month. There's a new kid who goes to school with my son, and he's super into magic, super into magic. That's like his life. Like he watches DVDs and whatnot. And then he
Wow.
comes for a play date in my house. And then my son's like, my dad's a magician. And I'm like, the fuck? I'm not. And then I thought for a second, I'm like, oh shit. For him at 3 years old, when I did that trick, it
Yeah.
blew his mind
It's
so
stuck.
much that he's 7. It's been 4 years. He still
Wow.
remembers I did
He
that
still
fucking
thinks
trick.
you're a
He
magician.
thinks I'm a magician. And I'm like, I don't even remember how to do that trick.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like, I
yeah.
can't do it. I can't do it. I didn't have practice. I don't even have
So
a fucking
funny.
card of like deck cards here. Like,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
That's
hilarious.
hilarious, man. I'm gonna share your stuff here for people watching on YouTube. Thanks so much. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you're
Yes.
on Facebook or whatever, hit follow or any audio platform. Make sure you hit follow on there too. It helps us out. But it's at Oliver Cult on
Yeah.
Instagram with a cult with a K. I'll put that
Yeah.
in the description. People can always check that out there. Olivercult.ca is your website.
Yes.
And of course, go pick up Dadass
You need
on
to pick it up on Amazon.com.
yeah, yeah. It's on
Yeah.
Amazon. I'll put wait, you have a forward from Che Arena?
Yeah, boo.
Dude,
Yeah.
I'm good. I know Che. I used to work with Che.
Really, dude, this guy's hilarious. So
Small
real,
world, man.
yeah, real quick. It just happened
Yeah.
because I watched he had this skit on his Instagram where he like fucking talks about, like how he describes to a girl, like he does like these response videos a lot on how guys actually piss and how they make sure there's no piss when how do you whip it and everything. Well,
Yeah.
I remember watching it like at probably 10 p.m. I'm dying in my bed. So I saved his account and then started writing the book. And then as the book kept going, I was like, I need a comedian to write the forward to this
Yeah.
book. It's too funny to not have a comedian. Like I can't, I have stage fright and like other than music. I was like, I can't be a comedian. This doesn't work for me. I need a comedian. So, and I did, that's the first guy I thought about. I was like, Che, he's
Yeah,
hilarious.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
vulgar as shit. Plus, he doesn't want kids. I'm like, he got vasectomized. Like, he's the perfect guy for me because I'm like, I need a guy who's gonna say joke. Like, I want him to roast the reader. So, like, that's one
Mm.
of the thing I told him. I was like, dude, write a few words to start my book, roasting a dad who bought this. Like,
Yeah,
why the
yeah.
fuck would you
That's a
have
good
kids?
like writing prompt. Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
was like, why the fuck would you have kids? Like, so you buy a parenting book, you open it up, and you're getting insulted by Che. And I was like, this is how I want my vibe when you open up my book, and that's what happened. And I'm so grateful he did it because he's hilarious. And right now he's blowing
He's
up.
great. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
I'm
I
so
worked with him
it's
at
cool.
these YouTube studios in Toronto. Yeah, he
Nice,
was
nice.
on Most Amazing Top 10 was the channels that he was on, and I was on some of the other channels, but we were in the same like office together. And I've known him
No,
through doing comedy in Toronto. We used to do open mics and whatnot together. It's amazing to
nice.
see
I did.
where he's
He
going.
is he Canadian?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Dude, I
Yeah.
had no idea.
Yeah.
So we barely spoke. Like honestly, I only DM'd him. I was like, dude, I'm writing a book on parenting. I love your humor. I would love for you to write a forward. And he was like, I'm the total opposite. I have a vasectomy next month booked. I was like, this is exactly why I'm messaging you, dude. I'm like,
Yeah,
I need
yeah.
you to roast. I need you to be like fuck being a parent, fuck having kids. I need this at the beginning of my book. He was like, sure, I got you.
That's great.
You know. So yeah,
What a
I'm super
small
happy.
world, man.
Yep.
Well, it was great
Yeah.
meeting you, dude. Like, honestly, it
Same.
was a fun conversation. Anytime
Same.
you want to come on, more than welcome to.
Yeah, I would love to. I'm coming to Canada this summer, so I might try to stop by Ottawa if we can
Let's
do
link
some
up.
mushrooms.
Yeah, yeah. Let's go get tattoos.
Yes. Ciao, man.
All right, later. Take care.
Bye.
You've been listening to The Johnny Rogers Show. New episodes air every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.